Welcome to the chaos sector. We return to the matrix. Many think we're too hard on Democrats and don't expose Republicans as much. Understandable, but you have to also understand that one side is just too radical to ignore. They overshadow Republicans so much, there's always something absurd being revealed in their party. For instance, if we are working on breaking down Republicans, here comes some wacky incident or headline involving Democrats. It's just extremely difficult to overlook. As you know, we're focusing on the upcoming election in the political matrix, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, once again. And this segues me into discussing something that had been revealed about the Democratic candidacy. First, I want to play a clip from PBS back in 2018 regarding the 2016 Democratic primaries, where Elizabeth Warren made a very important statement.
We're learning today that a new book that is coming out by Donna Brazile, the former acting chair of the Democratic National Committee, that the campaign of Secretary Hillary Clinton was far more influential at the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, than we previously knew. Do you think, though, that what we're learning from Donna Brazile's book suggests that the campaign, that what the Democratic National Committee did, meant this election was rigged?
Yeah, I think it was.
It's a pretty powerful charge.
Well, what we have to focus on now as Democrats is we recognize the process was rigged, and now it is up to Democrats to build a new process, a process that really works and works for everyone, and that as we go forward, we have confidence in the integrity of the system, that Democrats, as they run a primary, are going to let the people speak, and that we're going to have a candidate who's the candidate chosen by the people. That's our job.
Now, Donna Brazile basically snitched on Hillary Clinton and fellow Democrats in her book. As always in the political matrix, things have 10 minutes of airtime, then it's swept under the rug. But Elizabeth Warren believed that the Democratic primaries were rigged in Hillary Clinton's favor, and of course facing off against Trump in the presidential debates. Warren tiptoed around in how she revealed it, but everyone knew exactly what she meant. Sure, many would say she was bitter, she didn't get the nomination, but the truth still remained. Warren has a few skeletons in her closet as well. But what do you expect with corrupt politicians? She also stated that the Democratic primary should allow the American people to speak. In other words, the American people virtually had no impact on who would be the Democratic candidate in 2016. Well, you can say that again. In other words, the American people virtually had no impact on who would be the Democratic candidate in 2016. Most people don't say it again, so, A lot of people may not recall, but this is what Trump alleged in the presidential debates against Hillary Clinton, that the DNC rigged everything for her, and that Bernie Sanders was cheated out of being the Democratic candidate. Those were the last two Democratic candidates, and Hillary Clinton was the victor. Sure, the polls appeared to favor Hillary over Bernie, but we all know appearance can be an illusion. Now, Bernie Sanders is running around in the shadows, stirring up socialist policies within the Democratic Party. He seems perfectly fine with the outcome. But I know why Clinton was chosen over Bernie. Well, there are a few reasons to why. First, Hillary Clinton has entirely too much financial influence in politics. Millions of dollars are generated in endorsements. Second, Democrats felt that the, quote, more reserved and calm demeanor of Clinton would outclass the, quote, raging buffoon being Donald Trump. If Bernie had debated Trump, it would just be two radicals yelling at each other, which would favor Trump due to his popularity. So they wanted to make Trump look like a fool, swimming in the deep waters of political rhetoric, foreign policies he had no real substantial knowledge about, and Clinton would wipe the floor with him. But they underestimated Trump's resolve in those debates, as he actually was not as radical as depicted. Clinton loses, then claims Russians hacked into the system, helping Trump win. That's how 2016 played out. Now, Donna Brazile basically jumped ship after she was confronted by Megyn Kelly. Want to talk about holding someone's feet to the fire? Brazile needed icy hot to cool off. Let's rewind back to that segment.
To challenge the legitimacy of these particular tapes put out by James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. In fact, they've acted on them.
Absolutely.
So you say that the tapes are falsified?
Mr. O'Keefe enjoys falsifying records. He did it with NPR. He's done it with
what about in
numerous
this
sources.
case?
But Kelly, can I ask you, we're at a presidential debate, and Donald Trump made several ridiculous claims tonight.
But you're dodging. I hit Donald Trump's representatives with those, but now I have you.
I don't play dodgeball, honey. I play basketball.
Not to challenge the legitimacy of these particular tapes put out by James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. In fact, they've acted on them.
Absolutely.
So you say...
Oh, you play basketball? So the analogy applied here is you double dribbled, and when the referee blew the whistle for that violation, you're holding the ball as if you're confused about the call. Putting on this elaborate act because you were expecting to get away with the violation. Going even further into that basketball analogy, this does happen. Referees allow violations all the time. Puts it all in perspective.
And I'm just telling you, he tried to score on misinformation. He's trying to score
but I have you.
on
Listen,
information that was obtained illegally.
You say that, Donna.
Kelly.
You say that you play straight up. But I have to ask you because you were accused of receiving a debate question before a CNN town hall where they partnered with TV1, and that you had this question on March 12th. That verbatim was provided by Roland Martin to CNN the next day. How did you get that question, Donna?
Well, Kelly, since I play straight up, and I'll play straight up with you, I did not receive any questions from CNN. Let's just be very clear.
Where did you get it?
First of all, what information are you providing to me that will allow me to see what you're talking about? And I'm just telling you, he tried to score on misinformation. He's trying to score
but I have you.
on information that was obtained illegally.
You say that, Donna.
Kelly.
You say that you play straight up. But I have to ask.
This is priceless. Donna is metaphorically shitting her pants at this moment. She is caught red-handed, contributing to helping Hillary Clinton be handed the nomination. It's all over her face. It's in her tone of voice. It's her stuttering. She is literally stuck in a corner on live television. And the sad thing about this all is it actually hurt Hillary Clinton in the presidential debates. Because although she had the experience over Trump, Americans knew that Clinton was and will always be a corrupt politician, and her nomination was flat out manufactured by Brazile and others in the Democratic Party. So, in essence, Brazile helped Trump win in 2016. Go figure.
You got the WikiLeaks released a March 12th Podesta email showing you messaging the Clinton campaign with the exact wording of a question asked at the March 13th CNN TV1 town hall debate.
Kelly,
where did you get it?
You know, as a Christian woman, I understand persecution, but I will not sit here and be persecuted because everybody
You got the WikiLeaks released a March 12th Podesta email showing
Oops. You know, I meant what I said prior, metaphorically. But the look on her face, she may have actually crapped her pants. It's unbelievable. That's the facial expression of an elderly person who has a accident. Let's watch her facial expression after Kelly exposes her.
You got the WikiLeaks released a March 12th Podesta email showing you messaging the Clinton campaign with the exact wording of a question asked at the March 13th CNN TV1 town hall debate.
Kelly,
where did you get it?
You know, as a Christian woman, I understand persecution, but I will not sit here and be persecuted because...
I don't think she did, but it's possible. Congressmember Jerry Nadler crapped his pants once, another example of when you're too old to hold these political positions of power, so, you know, can't rule it out. That smile was a smile of absolute fear. The smile basically was pleading with Megyn Kelly and saying, please don't do this to me, not on live television.
Your information is totally false. What you're telling the American people, well, Podesta's emails were stolen. You're so interested in talking about stolen.
So you deny it.
You're like a thief that want to bring into the night the things that you found that was in the gutter. I'm not. Let me just tell you what I said from day one.
CNN's Jake Tapper came out and said this was unethical. Somebody was unethically helping the Clinton campaign. He said, "I love Donna Brazile, but this is very, very upsetting." My understanding is that the email to Donna Brazile, this is Jake Tapper. My understanding is that the email to Donna Brazile came from either Roland Martin or someone around Roland Martin. He said this is very upsetting and very troubling. That's your own colleague at CNN. It's not Megyn Kelly. Who gave you that question?
Hey, Megyn, once again, I've said it, and I've said it on the record, and I'll say it on the record, and I'll keep saying it on the record. I am not going to try to validate falsified information. I have my documents. I have my files. Thank God I have not had my personal emails ripped off from me and stolen and given to some criminals to come back altered. I have my records. I have my files. And as I've said repeatedly, CNN, in the 14 years I was associated with CNN, I've never received anything. If I had
Okay. Now, let's put it all into more context here. We don't even have to fact-check those WikiLeaks and what Podesta claimed, although let me mention that for a moment. Now, Donna claimed that John Podesta's emails were stolen, right? Well, guess who was responsible for this? None other than, drumroll, Russia. On December 9, 2016, the CIA told U.S. legislators that the U.S. intelligence community had reached the conclusion that the Russian government was behind the hack and had given to WikiLeaks a collection of hacked emails from John Podesta. Translation, another example of the federal government covering up the crimes that politicians, especially Democrats, have committed. Hillary Clinton and the DNC rigged the primaries for her. We have to keep this a secret. The best way to do this is claim some foreign government was involved somehow, and that manifested into also interfering with the presidential election as well. Now, what would be the motive of Russia interfering with the election in the United States? Also, why hadn't it happened in any other election? To suggest that Russia only targeted the 2016 presidential election, then are they suggesting that Hillary Clinton was too strong on foreign policy and she would somehow, what, denuclearize Vladimir Putin? In the words of old Joe, come on, man. The Democrats rigged their own primaries for Hillary Clinton, then claimed the presidential election was rigged. If you're putting it together here, gaslighting and projection. But we can literally use Donna's book called Hack to verify the questioning from Megyn Kelly. In that book, Donna claimed that the DNC acted in favor of Clinton's campaign during the Democratic primaries, to the detriment of Bernie Sanders and his campaign. The claims were investigated by the Washington Post, which reported that the fundraising agreement which Brazile alleged rigged the 2016 presidential primaries for Clinton in September of 2015, and how Bernie Sanders supporters knew about it and was ridiculed after details outside of the fundraising were not yet disclosed to the public. Yeah, great way to betray your fellow Democrats, Donna. Now, as a somewhat neutralizer, she mentioned how this helped Donald Trump become president. Not sure how she connected that dot, unless it goes back to my conclusion. The American people knew Hillary Clinton was corrupt and had enough of corrupt politicians. So yeah, she was exposed for having questions prepared before the debates when it was presented as if those questions were new. Yet, in her exposure, she comes out with the book to save her own hiney. That's a classic Democrat for ya. When the shit hits the fan, they start betraying each other. Now all of this comes full circle to the current nonsense. Guess what happened? The same damn thing. Old Joe had a path paved for him to be the Democratic candidate in the 2024 presidential election. You think they'd learned a lesson, but that's Democrats keep ramming their heads against the wall. In the primaries, they literally cleared the way for old Joe to be the Democratic candidate.
The oldest nominee that would be 86 when he finished his term. And this is back in January. Well, this is a poll, 1,000 registered voters. Are you concerned about that he'll be too old to be president? Even then, before what we saw in the debate, 3/4 of voters said big concern.
Yeah, 76%. Major concern. And yet, Democrats, as we spoke about a little bit earlier in the show, forced Joe Biden through, engineered the primary to ensure, for the second election cycle in a row, to ensure that Joe Biden is the nominee. In February of 2023, the DNC approved a proposal to make South Carolina the first official primary. And then all the way into January, they ensured that Joe Biden's name was really the only name that was going to be appearing on these ballots from New Hampshire all the way through to making sure Dean Phillips and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would not be a threat to Joe Biden.
Absolutely right. The so-called party of democracy rigged their own democratic process to make sure there was little to no resistance to Joe Biden because the people closest to him inside the White House and the DNC, they knew his diminished state. They knew if he had to vigorously campaign against legitimate opponents, it would be difficult. So they moved the calendar, didn't participate in New Hampshire, and sure enough, he clinched the delegates, which he's now leaning on, Will. Oh, I have the delegates by March of 2024.
And we've been talking about this. Dean Phillips has been talking about this primary.
I'm not going to say anything, but the president understands the consequences. I think he'll make the right decision. And I'm going to let him do that before I make any more comment.
Have some of your colleagues come up to you privately since and said, hey, you were right, I'm sorry, but we take it seriously?
Yes, and reporters. Talk about a guy vindicated. The premise of his candidacy was, this guy's just too old. He's not prepared to be president. I think I can step up. He didn't have a lot of grievances with Joe other than I think a new generation should come in. Here he is.
Now, remember, everyone seems to have had this revelation following the CNN presidential.
Some Democrats simply dropped out. Some simply didn't have the popularity, which should be the Democrats the party brings to the table. And of course, the money raised for old Joe's campaign will blow every other Democrat out of the water. If you're rigging your own primaries for a specific candidate to represent the party, how can you be united? You can't. And the difference between Democrats and Republicans in this regard is Republicans know that Trump is the big ticket in the party right now, but they do have others who can challenge him in the future. Nothing wrong with competition, but if Democrats eliminate competition to have a specific candidate represent them, this will be exposed. And we will gladly assist in doing so. It's an honor. This is the Chaos Sector.